A tough piece in Vanity Fair, Sarah Palin, The Sound and the Fury. We'll hear from its author, Michael Gross, in just a moment. Here's Sarah Palin on Sean Hannity's radio show criticizing media portrayals of her, maybe criticizing this one.
Impotent, limp, and gutless reporters take anonymous sources and cite them as being factual references. It just slays me because it's so absolutely clear what the state of yellow journalism is today, that they would take these anonymous sources as fact. So when a story especially is filled with those, then we know it's bogus and we're not going to read it.
Limp and gutless reporters talking there about the media. Sarah Palin may be talking about my guest, Michael Joseph Gross. He's the author of the big piece in Vanity Fair, Sarah Palin, The Sound and Fury. He joins us from New York. Michael Gross, thanks for being here.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
So you describe what's put in your piece as the surreal new world. Palin now inhabits a place of fear, anger, and illusion, has swallowed up the engaging small-town hockey mom and her family. Who did you talk to? What did you find?
I talked to dozens of people who have known her over a period of decades. I talked to everybody from folks who worked with her when she was mayor, to people who grew up with her, to people who worked with her on the 2008 campaign. These are not, I want to point out in contrast to your previous guest, these are not peripheral and casual sources. These are people who've known her very deeply and well. And in many cases, these are people who are deeply embedded in the same very small community where she is the most powerful person, where there's a huge risk in identifying themselves. That's the reason they didn't identify themselves, not because their information was, not because their acquaintance was passing.
Okay, we'll look at that. You followed her very, very public appearances and persona in recent months. And in this piece, you go at more private, kind of backstage views. Paint the two for us. First of all, publicly. Many people will have been in that world. Many will not. Many won't have seen her public appearances. What are those like? And what's the contrast you find with what's backstage?
In public, I saw a character whose connection with her audience was unlike anything I've seen since Ronald Reagan. This is a person who's experiencing something approaching an apotheosis on a daily basis as she travels around the country. She's claiming to speak out for hardworking, normal, average, everyday Americans, and she's claiming to be one, too. But going on to the second part of your question, the private reality is actually very, very different. She doesn't treat those normal, hardworking, average Americans very well. The stories of her former employees and assistants, the stories of just the most horrific kind of abuse going all the way back to the beginning of her career, were things that initially were so shocking to me that I couldn't even believe them. And it was only after I heard the same stories from people whose experience with her is separated by many years and thousands of miles that I came to understand that this was a real character. I mean, for instance, one of her assistants when she was mayor was so taunted and tortured by Sarah that the woman eventually had to quit her job, seek psychiatric counseling, and move out of state to escape Sarah's influence.
You write, anywhere you peel back the skin of Sarah Palin's life, a sad and moldering strangeness lies beneath. That's not the kind of language we normally hear around politicians. Give us an example. What do you mean, sad and moldering strangeness? Hey, you're having a governor of Arizona moment here, Michael.
I am. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I mean, you paint a lot of stuff in here. A lot of it is about how tight this circle is, about how few people are let into it, and about the conflict that may be there even in that tightest of circles right there in her home.
That's right. I'd actually like to add one more detail about this difference between the public reality or the public appearance and the private reality. A few details that haven't been pulled out. I guess the music says we're going to break.
We'll take a little break here. We'll come right back and look at those details and more with Michael Joseph Gross, contributing writer for Vanity Fair magazine, author of the big new piece, Sarah Palin, The Sound and the Fury. Michael, stand by there in New York. Listeners, you can join us. How are you sizing up Sarah Palin these days? Kingmaker, culture warrior, future president? Is it fair? Is it sexist to go after her off-stage life? 800-423-8255 is our number. I'm Tom Ashbrook. This is On Point. We're talking this hour about Sarah Palin's power and a controversial new profile of the Palin machine and the private Palin. Michael Joseph Gross is with us from New York, contributing writer for Vanity Fair, author of Sarah Palin, The Sound and the Fury. Big piece that has drawn, of course, a heavy pushback from the Sarah Palin camp, but also a lot of readership and attention. You can join the conversation this hour. Are we overblowing or underestimating Sarah Palin? We're at 800-423-8255, 800-423-TALK. Just to get her in our ears, here she is again from the Glenn Beck rally, featured guest, the Restoring Honor rally at the Mall in Washington on August 30th. This is the end of her speech there.
You have the same still spine and the moral courage of Washington and Lincoln and Martin Luther King. It is in you. It will sustain you as it sustained them. So with pride in the red, white, and blue, with gratitude to our men and women in uniform, let's stand together, let's stand with honor, let's restore America. God bless you and God bless America.
Sarah Palin on August 30th. You have the same still spine. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but Michael, you saw her in action far from Washington. You open your piece with one of those scenes. Give us a sense of kind of how it rolls out. When Sarah hits, I guess it's Independence, Missouri is the place you began to take us in. What did you see there in her, in the crowd, in the family?
If you don't mind, I want to go back to Sad and Moldering Strangeness for a second, where I blanked out, because I feel like we just spoke about what those events are like. We described the apotheosis. We described the Reagan-esque connection. But the Sad and Moldering Strangeness is something that I was really struck by among the citizens of Wasilla. I talked to them about what's happened to her over this past year, and over I would hear the same thing. She quit us. She left us. We don't understand. We don't understand why. One of the most resonant remarks of the almost 3 weeks I spent there was people who loved Sarah Palin are sad because they found out that Sarah Palin loves Sarah Palin most of all. They feel like they elected her. They elected her to do a job, to be the governor, to try to make life in their state better. And what she decided to do instead was take off and make money and draw attention to herself. They think that her life is about her own ego now. And I think that we see this if we look closely at the facts of the organization that she's built for herself. She really is the only major American politician who has intentionally cultivated a culture of intimidation to fend off scrutiny and smear the reputations of anyone who dares even to question her.
What do you mean a culture of intimidation? What's the evidence?
There's a website called Conservatives for Palin, which is really the epicenter of Palin's support. It's where one of her closest aides right now came from, a woman named Rebecca Mansour. Rebecca's initials are RAM, and so she's called herself Ram, or Ram Hammer.
Okay.
And it's a nickname that really describes the forcefulness and the aggression with which she goes after anybody who in any way questions her. When she was on the website, she would troll the boards looking for signs of anybody who departed from the party line and throw them out. She'd write, "Now you're banned for life, you sick son of a bitch." This is the person that Palin has chosen to help her with her internet messaging strategy. There are a lot of signs that Rebecca actually may be the person who's really writing a lot of the Facebook status updates and the Twitter postings. They're getting reported all over the place as Sarah Palin's words.
Really? Which are so much a part of Sarah Palin's kind of profile to the world these days.
Exactly, yeah. You know, when Sarah first went on Twitter, her Twitter feed sounded like a boring sort of catalog of official press releases. Mostly, it was really there was nothing interesting about it. Rebecca Mansour and Sarah Palin developed a personal relationship. And shortly after that, the byline of Rebecca Mansour disappeared from Conservatives for Palin, and Sarah Palin's voice on Twitter started sounding very different. It started sounding a lot like Rebecca Mansour's. It started sounding increasingly vitriolic and aggressive and mean.
This is hardly unusual, though, in politics to have people writing on behalf of a big politician.
That's right, but because all we have from Sarah is Twitter and Facebook, because she never makes herself accessible to reporters, she never makes herself answerable to questions the way we expect all other politicians to, that means that we need to look a lot more closely at where these statements are coming from, who's doing them. And we have to question whether this really is extemporaneous speech from this individual. And if it's not, then we need to we in the press, need to put the screws to this person and make her be part of the conversation according to the same standards that we hold everybody else to.
Whatever she's doing well by it. You say she's earned an estimated $13 million since she resigned from the governorship of Alaska, due with speaking fees and what all to make another $3 million this year. And as you report, when people go to try and sort of peel back the covers a little bit, Conservatives for Palin will go back at them. You describe them describing what questioners as creep, hack, loser, stormtrooper, liar, or just plain slime. Michael Joseph Gross is with us. His piece is in Vanity Fair. We've got lots of listeners calling in. Michael, Martha in Concord, Massachusetts.